Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Your host, Tracy Hayes. Another best of the best on the show today. In 2021, he did 69 transactions for $26 million.
Yep.
This young man is on fire. Recently recognized as the Jack's Real Producers Magazine. Today, we will dig in to find out what makes him tick. What's his secret sauce? He was a collegiate athlete playing Division I soccer. He's highly motivated, has an extreme work ethic. He is scoring a lot of goals each and every month. He's a top producer at the DJ Lindsey team. Let's welcome Theo Fulger to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Theo. I appreciate you coming by.
Of course.
And for people out there watching, as many of my guests, I've never met Theo. I do my research online to find out as much about him. So I'm learning here as our watchers are seeing here on Facebook Live, and then obviously we'll go out on Apple Podcast here next Tuesday. So for that, so as I always like to start off the show, where are you from?
So I was originally born and raised in Norway. My dad was in the Air Force, so there was a bit of back and forth. I lived in Mexico for a while when I was 5 to 7, back to Norway. Stayed in Norway till I was about 12. Then we moved to Gainesville so that my sister could go to UF and be closer to my father's side of the family. Kind of been back and forth from Gainesville and Jacksonville ever since college, basically.
Right. Norway's interesting. I've told this story before on the show. I had a couple of, when I was in high school, they were two girls, twins, came over from Norway. They were great basketball players. I was fortunate. The interesting thing, my little touch in Norway for 5 minutes, well, actually it's probably a couple hours, was flying to Sweden, Sweden, when I was in high school. And for some reason, I don't know what it was, but when we stopped in Norway, they said they had to do some repairs on the plane or something. And so we were delayed a little bit, and they're like, don't take any pictures. So I don't know what was going on at the airport at the time. Well, I didn't want you to take, I was like, okay, all right.
That's weird.
It's kind of weird. Yeah. From that standpoint, but that must have been somewhat interesting. I mean, do you speak the language a little bit, or did you retain some of it?
Yeah, I speak Norwegian fluently. I still have my mom and my whole mom's side of the family over there. So try to go back every 2 to 3 years whenever I can.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So your dad was in the Air Force, but
Correct.
You weren't there because of the Air Force. You were there because your mom's from there. Am I right?
Kinda. So my dad met her in Norway when he was stationed there. So kind of a combination of both, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess, well, obviously, most people probably don't know that we have installations all over the world, but
Exactly.
yeah, interesting. All right. So Gainesville was simply because your sister was, I assume, an older sister.
Yeah. So my dad's from Lake City,
Okay.
which is about 45 minutes west of here.
Yeah.
And then probably an hour north of Gainesville. So my dad wanted to move back to be closer to family. My mom said, no way, we're going to Lake City. So the next best thing was Gainesville, and they had UF there as well, so my sister could go there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
She's satisfied with Gainesville.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Interesting there. So you're 12 years old. You're in Gainesville. I mean, was your sister an athlete too? Did she just?
No. I was the only athlete in the family somehow. But she was more of a academic scholar.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And well, I know that Europeans love soccer, so I imagine you probably started playing soccer when you were in Norway. Was kind of a
yeah. I started playing soccer when I was very young, when I was probably 5.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I have a good friend of mine. His daughter's going to IMG for soccer, and her mother is Swiss.
Yep.
So she has played on the Swiss, I think it's under 16 team, something like that. And they were playing in Iceland.
Nice.
And they were streaming it. So I logged in, and of course this is obviously indoors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do they have a lot of facilities like that in Norway? I mean, is that
They do.
for a good part of the year you're playing inside?
They do, because in Norway they play soccer year round, basically, because soccer and basketball are the biggest sports there. But soccer they play year round, and of course during wintertime it's snowing outside, so they have a lot of indoor facilities.
Yeah, that's I think a lot of Americans. Well, I guess if you live in Minnesota, we probably would relate to that.
Yeah.
I grew up in the Northeast. It's just you went with the seasons.
Yeah.
It's fall was football and soccer, and winter you played basketball or hockey, and then the spring you could play baseball, right?
Exactly.
There, but those climates there. So you're you were at UNF. Well, you transferred. You started at University of Florida. If I saw you were doing track.
I started running track at UF my freshman year. It was cool, but it kind of felt like I was still in high school because I went to high school in Gainesville. So I kind of wanted to get away. I missed playing soccer a lot as well. So I just basically started reaching out to some coaches in Florida, started sending out my tapes so that they could see me play soccer. And then I had some coaches come out and take a look at me play in person as well. And then I got some scholarship offers that way.
Cool. Yep. So you by your sophomore year, I'm at UNF.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I think I didn't write down your major, but I think it was public relations.
Yep. Communications.
Which is a big thing of what we do actually. Yeah. But was real estate even a vision at this time when you were playing? What'd you see yourself doing post college? While you're there.
So I wasn't really sure. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do in college, and I think that's a common theme with a lot of people when they're in college.
Oh yeah,
they go to college because they're told that's what you're supposed to do. So then you're kind of chasing this paper, but you're not really sure what you want to do.
Right. It's a maturity time, I think. Now it's more of a maturity.
Yeah.
Hey, you completed 4 years of a regiment and you completed it,
living on your own and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, in college, my passions were I like to work out a lot. So I think that's kind of what I felt like I wanted to do some personal training and stuff like that.
Right.
Which I did end up doing as soon as I graduated college.
You got into some personal training.
Yeah. So my first job out of college, I got as a personal trainer. I was doing that for about a year. And then my buddy who worked at Merrill Lynch, he was like, hey, I'm working at Merrill Lynch in the back office. You should come do it. You'd be great at it. It's not rocket science. and it's a good company, lots of good benefits and stuff like that. Right. So I was like, why not? So I got the 9 to 5 at Merrill in the back office doing that while I was training on the side as well.
What kind of work were you doing at Merrill?
So we were basically helping the financial advisors and their assistants with like paperwork, approving paperwork.
It's ironic. I was just talking to someone on Monday. We were talking about how they were 22 years old and someone reached out to us and said, hey, come over to Merrill. We got something for it. And that's how she got into mortgages. Yep. Because she was got into that department. Yeah. So you're at Merrill, you're feeling this 9 to 5, you're doing some personal training on the side.
Yep.
I mean, obviously you're 23, 24 years old at this time?
Yeah, I was 23. Yep.
Okay. Well, just kind of just going with the flow?
Yeah. So I'm a very ambitious person. Once I kind of get a hold or master one thing, I'm always looking for all right, well, what's next? What can I do next?
Yeah, I'm the same way.
And I've always been like that. Yeah. So after working in the back office and doing personal training for a year, I was very intrigued by the stock market, by the financial advisors, kind of their work and stuff like that. I figured I'd like to work with people. I was basically in a call center. So I figured, well, I like the stock market, like money. So why don't I learn how to start making trades and stuff like that?
Right.
So they basically had a position there where they would pay for you to get your Series 7 and 66. So I studied. I got those 2 certifications or licenses. And then I took a new role at Merrill as a financial solutions advisor, which is kind of like a phone-based financial advisor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of learn how to trade, learn the advising portion of that as well. Kind of increase my knowledge in that sense.
So you're going through, you're just advancing in the place that you're at.
Yep.
I mean, where does that end up leading? How long do you end up spending in Merrill?
So,
because you don't have a LinkedIn account, so I don't know this stuff.
Yeah, I get that all the time.
People do search you. I will highly recommend it because obviously, we're here in Florida. People will Google you.
Yeah,
they're talking to you on the phone, like, who is this guy? And they go to Google you.
Yeah,
LinkedIn is a good way to show them, hey.
Exactly. So I did that for about a year, and then they were about to put into effect Department of Labor new regulation, which was going to affect basically our job a lot because we dealt with a lot of retirement accounts. So there was a lot of uncertainty in my role. I was up for promotion, but then they did like a promotion and hiring freeze. I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Do I just sit
Sounds
around?
like a lot of mortgage companies right now.
Yeah. So I'm like, do I just sit around and hope for the best, or do I take action? So I started taking some action, putting some feelers out there. I had a buddy who got a really good role at Citibank.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, same spiel. He was like, hey, you should come over here. Like, you do really well at it. It's a great job, great company. So I was like, why not? We're basically at a standstill at Merrill. So I took a position at Citibank as a business analyst. It was quite a transition because, of course, in college, I didn't have a finance or business background. It was a public relations background. So it was a big transition, kind of learning that role because it was brand new to me. And I ended up being there for about 2 years. It was a great job. Good pay for my age and stuff like that, but it just wasn't really fulfilling. I remember calling at my 1 year mark at Citibank. I remember calling my dad and I was like, I'm just not happy doing this. I need to figure something out. Like, I need to figure out what I can do that's going to be lucrative and kind of be fulfilling on the personal level as well.
Yeah,
I like to help people.
It's important.
It's very important.
You learn that with age, for sure. And then the sooner you learn that, I think the longer success you'll have.
Exactly. So that's kind of where I learned the lesson, where it's not always about money. Because if you're working a job that's great pay, but you're not happy on a personal level, then like it's really hard to keep on going to work every day.
Right.
So I stuck it out for another year, saved up some money to where I could basically take a year off and not have to worry about anything. So I ended up putting in my 2 weeks. When I put in my 2 weeks, I kind of took a month off just to relax and kind of refocus and recenter myself. At that 1 month mark, I started getting antsy. I was like, all right, what am I going to do now? I need to figure something out. I need to start working again.
Right.
So I started.
Because right now, how old are you right now? I mean, at this point,
20,
we're talking.
I'm about 26.
Yeah. So, your experiences and with things, what you experienced a lot, obviously at Merrill Lynch doing that stuff. There's a lot of, John Brooks, he was in that background at your age and so forth, working in the financial sector. But we only know what we know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, unless your parents are a real estate agent or, I think we tend to see, we only know what, as we grow up, what our parents were doing as a career, maybe some friends or whatever, we kind of get a feel. So that's kind of all we know, but there's so many things out there to dabble into and to take some time and find those things that align with you.
Yeah.
And like you said, you have to be personally satisfied.
Yep.
And you, when you said you were working in the call center, I could say, I could see why he's got out of the call center, because you're the kind of guy who probably wants to get out and and be about, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after about a month of just traveling and taking some time off, I started doing some research, trying to figure out like, hey, I remember Googling how to grow generational wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that I found in common with everyone was real estate. So getting my real estate license has always kind of been in the back of my mind. So that was kind of the trigger to push me to go to real estate school. So I went to real estate school, got my license, kind of got into real estate, and it's been really good ever since.
So, I apologize because I want to make sure my technology is working. So I am obviously one of my biggest focus on what you're saying. So who introduced you? Where do you get just the introduction to real estate? Like, hey, let me.
It was just
me. Did you know somebody or just?
It was just me doing research online, and then I found a real estate school, got my license.
So was it the lifestyle or the money? I mean, what initially gathers your interest of the?
It was helping people make one of the biggest financial decisions of their life, basically.
So it's kind of some of the stuff you were doing at Merrill Lynch, that mindset of helping them with their money.
Correct.
Now you're seeing it, you could do it with.
So, but in real estate and more on a personal involved level, it's more gratifying in real estate than it is over a phone helping someone place a trade, So.
Right. And then you got all these compliance things, like you can't really like lead them over there.
Yeah, exactly.
There's only so much you say. Yeah, because I talk to these guys on the phone. I've got some accounts at Merrill Lynch, and I say, well, hey, I want to roll it over. I got this account. I want to do, what can we do? And they're like very. They don't want to say much. Yeah, they don't want to say much. Like they're guiding you, and you're trying to like get some actual advising. Yeah, it's kind of like an attorney, right? They're like, well, you could do that, but if you do this, this could happen.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you want to do?
They have to be careful about what they say.
Yeah. So you go to like Watson, or where do you go to real estate school?
It was a school around here somewhere off of Bay Meadows. It was Florida School of Real Estate. That was the name of it. Yeah, I did like a 7-day course. Ended up taking my test. I passed the first time, so that was good.
Yeah.
And then, not gonna lie, I was a little lost at first when I got into real estate. I joined one brokerage. It was a, to me, kind of hands-off approach, and I'm a very physical. I need to see it to like. Well,
you're 26 years old. You probably haven't owned your own house yet, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is a very popular subject I really like to talk about, because hopefully we've got a new agent listening, or another young person, because there's some really great real estate agents out there that are killing it, that are sub 30 years old right now, and they just get it, and they're out there running with it. So that initial brokerage you go to, where did someone that just called you and just went over and just kind of signed up, or how did you actually get introduced to them?
I had a friend that was over there, and he was like, hey man, he was doing pretty good. And he was like, hey, you should come over here. We have some great tools. So I did. I ended up going over there. I was there for like 2 months, 3 months, maybe. Didn't really have any traction. So I got my license in September 2019, I believe.
Right.
So I was there dilly-dallying for about 2 or 3 months. Wasn't really getting any traction there. Ended up leaving that brokerage in like December, I believe, and then I joined the DJ Lindsey team.
So that time period, if you were looking back, or you had another person saying, I want to get into real estate, what would you recommend to them to avoid? Not saying it was, obviously sometimes you have to see the other side to realize what you have on this side. I think you use a nice analogy in that podcast. I was listening to something about the grass growing, where you water it. Yeah. What, if you're coming out of real estate school, or obviously today, these people, as soon as they sign up for real estate school, the brokers are already calling them, right?
Yep.
So what would be your advice that you would give somebody that's getting started to do some due diligence?
Yeah. So my advice would be to speak with someone who is successful, someone who's going to be honest with you, not just try to rope you into their brokerage, but
put another body
with you. And someone that can mentor you. If you have a good mentor, I think that'll shave off a lot of years on the learning curve in real estate.
100%.
Yeah.
Hanging out with some successful people and learning, and listen how they talk, how they handle themselves. Yeah. But then you also, obviously the obvious thing is the stories. Every transaction's a different story. Yeah. In our business, I mean, it may be it's just another house for $500,000, but the client's different. Their attitude's different. Whether they're from New York or they're from, India, as we have a lot of our Indian Pakistani friends here in the area. They handle things differently. Some people, it's just hey, it's just a house. To other people, like that's their nest, man. Yeah. That's some people, I always find it funny when these young people buy their first house, like, oh, this is gonna be our forever home. Yeah. Not likely. No one lives in their house 30 years anymore. Yeah. Like they did before. There's so many people that just move here locally. I know I'm friends with Pete and Brenda, 2 men in a truck, and they talk how often they move people from neighborhood to neighborhood. And in the 5 or 6 years, moved them 2 or 3 times. Yeah, exactly. They changed neighborhoods. So, but it's important, that advice. So, I was actually talking with Heather Straczynski on Monday on the podcast, how important it is that you, as the new real estate agent, even though you don't know anything, you need to actually interview the broker.
Yes.
And not the broker's interviewing you because they want to make sure you're not going to bring poison into their office. They should be doing that, and understand. But really, you need to like you were saying, that how you want to do your business.
Yeah, I think it's important for you to interview the broker to make sure it's a good fit for you and your lifestyle. If it's like a full-time gig at a brokerage, then of course it's going to be tough for you if you have 3 kids or if you're still in college or something like that. So you want to make sure that it's a good fit for you and that you're not getting yourself into a position that's going to make it even harder on yourself. Because most brokers will take anybody with a license in.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. They just, hey, you know, some friends, you'll probably sell a couple houses, because they know, obviously, I'm sure you went to the class and they probably, the first thing in the first 5 minutes, they told 80% of you aren't even going to be doing this in 2 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the just running the bodies through, but if just take, since we're on this subject and cap this around, is, you know, what are some important things, and maybe questions directly that you may have asked, but you're interviewing that broker. If you were restarting today, knowing what you know, what are the questions that you would, you know, ask that broker, or even agents that work for that broker, that would match with your personality, your work ethic, your.
Some of the questions I would ask is probably, how much like mentorship or information do you guys have available for me? What kind of structure do you guys have? Like, how many hours are expected to work a day and stuff like that?
And we'll get into DJ and Lindsey, because they do something. As many agents do a lot of different things. There's 70 plus agents, top producers I've had on the show. They're all doing something a little differently. You know, you got CC Underwood and Christina Welch. They got teams, but they run their teams totally different.
Yeah.
You got Melissa Ricks, who is just a machine, and she's got 4 assistants behind her, not realtors, 4 assistants behind her. Or actually, I think 5 now. I know she's added people on, but so they do things a little differently from that standpoint. So when you say, talk about what hours, most of these brokers out here are like, it's your business, do what you want to do, right?
Correct. Yeah. But then you have some teams that do have office hours,
right,
and lead shifts and stuff like that. So I think that's important to fully understand that and make sure that works with your own schedule. So
leading into the DJ and Lindsey, and there's other teams that have that very structured situation, because obviously people come a lot of times from a W-2 job.
Yeah.
They're working 9 to 5 or whatever it is, not totally grasping the whole self-employment part of it. And understanding is like, okay, you got to show up. No one's making you show up. But joining a DJ and Lindsey a team, or like I said, I mentioned Christina Welch, and they have a very structured, hey, for the first whatever, 90 days, 100, whatever that time period is, you're going to come in and from 9 to 5. And this is what your day is going to look like. We're going to train, we're going to make calls, we're going to do this, we're going to do that.
Yep.
How important do you think that is for, especially a lot of, not just, I want to use young, but it's not necessarily that. I mean, there's some agents that come out of corporate America, and they're so used to the, more or less clocking in and clocking out.
Yeah.
They're used to that structure, that they need that structured environment to get their business off the ground.
Yeah. So I think that's very important. I think that's a big misconception with people whenever they get into real estate, because they only see the glamorous side on Instagram and Facebook, and they don't really see what these successful people would do on the back end.
Yes.
Because you don't really see anybody like post the grind or the failures for that matter.
Hey, we've been sitting in here making phone calls for 3 hours.
Yeah, exactly. You don't see that. There's nothing fun about that.
Right.
But so that's a big misconception that a lot of people that come from a 9 to 5 have, where they're kind of like, okay, yeah, I can work 2 hours a day and like make good money and just be happy. It's just, you get what you put into it.
Right.
So me, I'm a very structured person. If I wake up late, my day is basically like in shambles because I'm already scrambling, trying to get this done, and I got to get this done. So I'm a structured person. I love waking up in the mornings, going to the gym, working out, doing my prospecting, and then showing in the afternoons, evenings, and stuff like that. And then more follow-ups after that. that's what I have found is the secret sauce for me.
Right.
Just consistency with that. But yeah, I think it is important as a new agent, if you are coming from a full-time job, to have that structure to ramp up your business as fast as possible.
You know, it's like we're using the analogy, you know, the grass grows where you water it, right?
Yeah.
And if it was so easy, everyone would be doing it. And now we talk about, all these people are licensed, but the reality is, it's just because their license hasn't expired yet. There's only a really small percentage of, you know, highly successful agents. We know there's a lot of part-timers, which, you know, in when I was growing up, a lot of the realtors were wives of, their husband was that stereotype. Their husband was already successful. They just got into real estate, and it just grew because they were just there. And, they had, where they had that kind of safety net because their spouses has a salary over here, and they got into it. And now it is more of a business. DJ Lindsey has made it, has structured that business. I think I don't know the inside workings, and that's where we're going to tap into you a little bit, is, you want to plug in to a machine and learn this business very quickly and get off, because that's the important thing. It's like losing weight. If you don't start losing weight initially, you give up on the diet pretty quickly, right?
Yep.
And if you're not getting those sales within a reasonable period of time, putting some money and feeding your family, you're like, hey, I got to move on to something else.
Yeah.
Right. So to plug into a system like DJ and Lindsey, my perception have created, and like I said, you really get you off to a great start. I mean, because you've only 3 years now? Has it been?
This is my third year.
This is your third year.
Yeah.
And your first year, I heard you had 30 sales.
I did 36 sales my first year,
which is crazy for any agent to have that many units or transactions in their first year, and then let alone you double it in the second year.
Yeah.
There in with that. And so now you have done, over 100 transactions. The average agent, it takes probably 5 or 6 years to do that the average agent that's just kind of just trudging through doing 8, 9, if they're lucky, they get a deal a month.
Yeah.
And so now you're at bats of just, so you just advanced your career. Now you have options.
Yep.
Yeah. I heard you talking on the other podcast, maybe a team. I don't know so what's your vision now after having this couple of years of success?
That's a good question. I'm still trying to figure out kind of what my next step is. I have gotten into some real estate investing. I bought my first, I guess, 2 units, a duplex.
Oh, cool.
Back
Hard
in
to
January.
find.
Yeah.
Where'd you find that at?
East side of 3rd Street in Jack's Beach.
Oh.
So I got a good deal on that one.
Yeah.
It's a keeper.
Yeah.
Yeah. So started doing that. Definitely planned on focusing more on the real estate investment side. Still, of course, servicing my clients to the best of my ability and stuff like that. But having this side gig,
Well, I imagine, and because my next question will be, what is DJ Lindsey doing for personal development? And I can already tell if they're not helping you with it or guiding you or setting you in the right direction, you're doing it yourself. And you've got to set up those passive forms of income.
Yeah.
And, obviously you're in real estate, and everyone will tell you every rich person has real estate in their portfolio somewhere at some level or not. Yeah. And we're in an area where we're so short of housing, rents high.
Yep.
It's because there's just supply and demand. And and to find a duplex, that is like gold. I mean, that's, to find a multifamily unit, is just huge. So, so leading it, what are you just a natural person to go after personal development, or has DJ and Lindsey kind of enhanced that for you? What do you do to stay sharp? Especially as a young person, because a lot of times you're dealing with people who probably might be twice your age, and they're looking at you, oh, you're a young guy, you know what you're talking about. Yeah. What do you do to?
I'm a very I need to know type person. I need to know all aspects of what I'm doing. So I know a lot of people, realtors, they'll kind of get the deal under contract and then pass it off to their transaction coordinator. I made sure to learn the lending side, the title side, the full thing. So I really have a full grasp on what is going on with my deals.
Right.
I think that people can tell that I know that whenever they speak with me. So I think that is kind of one thing. I've always been like that. Always want to know
Right.
how things work.
Well, you're not interfering, but you want to be updated.
Correct.
So you're in the know. And I think it's important from the loan officer side to, well, we know, and the people that I follow in the loan officer loan world, obviously you guys want to close on time. Real estate's close, that's given, right?
Yeah.
Got to close on time. Communication during the process.
Yeah.
And that's an exact, you're telling me that's what your need is, and that's what the other is. You want to be updated. Let us know, hey, where we're at, what's going on.
Yeah.
Hey, this one's a little hairy. We, don't breathe on it. I
Yeah.
have those conversations too
Yeah.
with some of the loans, but you want to know, and it's important if anyone out there, and the real estate agents that are watching or loan officers are watching, your team.
Yeah.
You're working together as a team, and we know stuff happens.
Yep.
With these transactions. You've done enough transactions to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff, and tomorrow there'll be another situation.
Yeah. So my big thing that I tell a lot of new agents is make sure that you learn at least one new thing from each deal to kind of build your arsenal of understanding and knowledge, because every deal is different.
Yeah.
But you can always find one new thing to learn. That way you learn how to recognize it for your next deal. Like, for example, when you're working with the FHA buyer, this is kind of part of having the knowledge. If you're working with the FHA buyer and they're looking at a house that was just flipped 30 days ago, you already know you can't buy this. Yeah, there's a seasoning period. We have to wait. So that's kind of a part of educating yourself and kind of avoiding putting yourself in sticky situations. If the roof is 20 years old, looking at the seller's disclosure, you already look. The insurance,
it's gonna be hard to get.
Yeah, the insurance parameters have changed. They used to go based off of how much life is left, but now they go based off of how old the roof is. So once it hits that 15-year mark, it's gonna be hard to get insurance.
Yeah.
So do you want to get in this situation, or do we need to go find a home that's better for you?
100%. I think I see it often from the lending side, because we get these things. And really now, from what the insurance company tells me, is that 10 years, after 10 years, you're already narrowing down the number of insurance companies you have.
Yeah.
Over 15, there's only a few, and obviously you're going to pay for that.
Yeah.
So when you're out on that listing appointment and look at the roof and go, I just want, you want to be well aware of smart buyers going to look at that, and they're going to, come back at you for it.
Yeah.
It may look great and not have any leaks or anything, but because of its age,
exactly.
Those insurance companies know, they look up that stuff.
Yeah. And insurance is getting harder and harder to get. So I think it's really important as agents to watch out for that and kind of prevent your buyer from spending all that money on inspections and appraisal just to basically have to go back to square one again.
Or especially or you mentioned FHA buyer, just someone who may not have a lot of cash.
Yeah.
Someone may buy that. Hey, I want to buy that house. Hey, the roof is no problem. I'm going to replace the roof. I want, they've got the cash to do it. Right.
Yeah.
But knowing your client and where they're at financially, and directing them to a house that's not going to put them in a situation where they're basically paying a lot for insurance because the roof age, and then they're going to have to replace the roof eventually. So they've already been paying an extra couple $100 a month for the insurance. Now they got to go buy the roof, and then they're really in a pinch.
Yeah, exactly. And I would never want to put anybody in that situation.
Yeah.
Because I've seen it happen to other people. I've seen people get in that situation, and that can set them back years from buying. Yeah. So I'm always very diligent when it comes to the finance part. I work hand in hand with the lenders, because that's what I used to do. I used to have these financial conversations with people. So
you're comfortable with it.
So I'm
that's a great asset there, because I know a lot of agents are afraid to have the financial conversation with them. Like ask how much cash you actually have available to you to do. There's a down payment, but then you got closing costs. There's other factors you have to put in.
That's kind of like my forte, like going over monthly expenses, because lenders will approve you for more than you need to spend, or more than you're comfortable spending. Right. So that's when you need to get down to the nitty gritty and be like, all right, let's talk about your expenses, like your utilities, car payment, whatever. Just make sure that you're comfortable with this monthly payment, because I know you can do higher, but if something happens, like we need to make sure that you have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved up.
And so many times, especially from the lending side, you get the question of, well, how much can you get them approved for? Well, like I said, I can get them approved probably for more than what they're, it's going to put them in a situation, especially if they're, maybe they're fortunate at the time that they sold the other house. So they had some cash and they paid off all their other debts. Well, then I can approve them for that much more home. But now they have that home is their sucking all their income every month, and then they start running up their credit cards. And now they're in that bind, or they love to go out and buy that car. As young people, as I'm sure we always wanted the fancy cars. You get older, you realize that car doesn't get you what we wanted it to get you. Just we need to get from A to B, right? Exactly. But within our income abilities. If you're making a lot of money, you can go out and buy that nice BMW, Mercedes, or whatever that is, or whatever. But if you're not, you like you said, you got to have that 6 months. Are you putting away the money into your financial vehicles? Putting the money pre-tax that the government allows you to put away and stuff. That's one of the questions that I especially with young people, like, oh, we're going to pay this off. Like, are you fully funding your retirement accounts? Are you doing? Oh, no. Okay, so you're going to pay off your house, and you have equity, but you have no vehicle over here that's hopefully growing. Lately, that a 401k went down, but other, as all the different investment vehicles they can put them in, and they're not making the money work for them. Is what it comes down to. I have such a low interest rate because obviously I was in the business and the rates got so low. I'm like, why should I pay extra? I'm putting it in my kids' college fund. I'm putting it in those other vehicles right now because the rate is so low that I have on the mortgage. Why should I rush to pay it off?
Exactly.
I can't chew the door. The door doesn't taste very good. All right, we've gotten into some good stuff. So, but do you follow anyone? I try DJ and Lindsey. I know they're part of what's that gentleman's name?
Tom Ferry.
Tom Ferry, that's it. Tom Ferry. I know they're very involved in Tom Ferry stuff and so forth. Do you follow anyone? Do you follow Tom or read his books or listen to his podcast or any others? Or
honestly, I don't, and it's probably bad that I don't. But I'm very big on self-educating, so I'll pick up a book and start reading, or just do research online and stuff like that. I don't really have anyone that I follow.
There is a ton of stuff on. I mean, YouTube is amazing. The amount, because almost everybody's podcast is on there, so you can go in there and clip out what you want to hear and so forth. The new loan officers, I try to direct them because it's because of my experience. But there's many ways to do it. Like you said, you're going in and kind of biting off pieces. I listen to some loan officers and what they're doing, but I do bounce around because obviously I do podcasts, so I want to hear what other people how they're doing their shows. So I also am picking up, hey, what's this loan officer doing over in Texas and so forth, and you pick up little tips and tricks, little things like that. So
so I would say I do that too. I always call my lenders and my title team to kind of chat with them if there's any changes coming. Like, for example, the Hometown Heroes program that they just came out with in June. That's huge. That's going to help a lot of people, like EMTs, firefighters, policemen, VA.
Even just fielding the questions, because you're going to get the questions. They may not actually qualify for it, but you're going to get the questions, and you want to sound somewhat intelligent.
Exactly. So I'm very up to date with that. I'll reach out to my lenders, be like, hey, what's going on? What's new? What's changing? Same thing with title company as well.
Right.
So that's kind of how I educate myself.
Surrounding yourself by successful people, you're reaching out. I mean, I've had some great people on the show. I'm gonna call out Stevie Hahn. That was what she told me she did. First thing she did. She didn't have a DJ and Lindsey team at the time because this is I don't know 5 or 6 years ago or 7 years ago. She's been in the real estate, but she went and had coffee appointments with the loan officers, with title companies, with home inspectors and so forth to understand what their businesses are. Because it's important. Your client, your buyer or seller, they're going to use these services. You want to obviously tell them what's going to happen when they open that door. Of course. And guide them through it. Just makes the transaction that much smoother, right? And looks like, so when there is, I think you would agree. So when there is a bump in the road, because you are so knowledgeable, because you're already educating them and saying, yeah, if you do this, this is going to happen, or, hey, this is what I recommend, the home inspector, this is how it's going to go down. Then all of a sudden there's a bump in the road 2 weeks in the transaction, and you come back and say, well, this is how we're going to handle it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, well, because he already everything else he's already told us has already like happened the way he explained it.
Yeah.
You're able to recover that person and get him back on.
100%. It builds credibility, showing that you have the knowledge and kind of getting ahead of the situation.
Right.
I've had homes or deals where I tell people, I'm like, look, this inspection report is going to come back bad. And they're still, I want the house.
Right.
The inspection report comes back bad. And they look at me and I'm like, I already told you this was going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
right. What's
so.
your opinion on it? So, well, have you been doing mostly buyer side, or have you done some listings, or?
Yeah, I've been doing a mix of both. I would say probably my first year was probably about 90% buyers, and then second year was probably about 60%.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm evening out.
Yeah. I always call this when you're listing is like little traps. You set the little traps around, and then they come to the traps versus you having to find them and bring them to the trap, right?
Yeah, so the listings are gold, right?
Yeah, exactly.
People are coming for the gold. It's completely different. The buy side is completely different from the sell side, which I learned pretty quickly. So it has its pros and cons. I like working with both.
What's your opinion on, and I don't know if you do this in your business, but I know there are some realtors do, because we were talking about the home inspection. And of course, obviously the last year, how crazy it's been, people are buying a home, even though there's a bunch of stuff on the inspection report. They'll either, hopefully negotiate some, but figure out I'll just fix it when I own the house, because, it's just the demand is so high.
Yeah.
But as the market starts to normalize back probably when you first started in 19, pre-listing inspections. Actually, when you are adding that value to the seller by going and getting that inspection done and then fixing all the things, so there are no excuses for the buyer when they get that report, because it should be pretty clean.
Yep. Just to touch base on that. So the past 2 years, you could basically not do anything to your home, put it on the market, and you're going to have 15 offers just because the rates were so low. It was just a frenzy. People were like, did not care about the report. People were waiving their inspection report, waiving everything. They just wanted the house because the rates were so low. Now that the rates,
and the lack of inventory.
Correct. Now that the rates have started to normalize some, I'd say it's still very competitive in like the 400K and below range, because there's a lot of cash buyers there. But 400K and up, buyers can shop around now. They can be more pickier. So I think it is, to answer your question, the listing agent's responsibility to, I wouldn't say you have to go get a pre-inspection, but I would say as a listing agent, you need to walk around and at least tell them, hey, this needs to be fixed, this needs to be addressed, touch up paint here, there, this needs to be cleaned up. Yeah, the obvious stuff. That way you're kind of getting ahead of the obvious stuff, and then you're also saving your seller the money on the inspection, because the buyer's going to get an inspection regardless. I wouldn't let my buyer just trust a seller's inspection. I would be like, you need to do your own due diligence and get your own inspector in there. So I think as a listing agent, walking through, having a thorough listing appointment, really getting to learn the property, understanding the property is enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because we have seen where people are in the last, because of the lack of supply, make an offer on a home. And then while that inspection's being done, they're still looking at other homes, because that's not ideally the home they want. It's the best one at the moment. And all of a sudden, the following Friday, another one goes out there. And then that inspection comes out, and they're like, they got all the excuses now to get out of that deal.
Yeah. So, like I said, people are shopping around now because inventory is starting to tick back up, because people aren't getting away with grossly overpricing their home like they were a couple months ago.
Some are still doing it.
So inventory is going up. Buyers are now able to shop around some. As a listing agent, I think it's important to keep those timelines really tight to avoid that situation, because people will back out. If the next best home comes around.
Buyer's remorse or whatever. You give them too much time to think about it. And then of course they'll get every naysayer and talk to every negative person they can find.
Exactly, the parents,
mostly family. yeah, exactly.
But then on the buyer side as well, as a buyer's agent, you want to explain to your buyer, like, let's not go under contract just because this is available. Let's make sure that this is the right. What I tell my buyers is, I don't personally, it sounds weird, but personally, I don't care what house you buy. I just want it to be the right house for you.
Right.
So if this house isn't the right house for you, let's not put an offer in. Let's not waste time. Let's find the right house for you. Because just throwing out offers like that is wasting everyone's time.
Yes,
basically.
it's going to tick a lot of people off. I literally had one agent tell me they basically fired their client after 25 offers over a period of 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
And literally, the couple of them were accepted, and then they backed out.
They backed out.
Yeah. So he's like, I'm not, if that's too much work.
Yeah.
You know, the things that you guys got to go through to actually just, it's not like, hey, I got a client wants to buy, they want to offer you $500,000 for the home. You have to actually go and create the contract and submit it and
sell yourself.
Yeah.
And say, hey, I know what I'm doing. This is going to be a smooth transaction. You guys have nothing to worry about.
Right.
And then you look crazy whenever your buyers back out. So I think I'm very good at having those honest conversations with my buyer. Luckily, I haven't really had anyone like that, but I've seen other people that happen to them. So I think it's very important to have the honest conversation with them and say, hey, what are we doing wrong? Why do we keep on backing out? Do I need to educate you more on the financial decision that you're making? Are you not ready to buy?
Do you find that comfortability because of maybe your time at Merrill Lynch? Because I like I said, a lot of agents will tell you they are a little bashful in having that conversation with them. Yeah. To kind of drill them down a little bit to find out to avoid those situations.
Yeah, I do. I think it's because I've literally had the conversations with, well, how much money do you have? Where else do you have accounts? What are we working with? Right. So I do feel very, very comfortable having that conversation, but I think it's important to portray why we're having the conversation. We're having this conversation to make sure that you're making the right financial decision. I'm not just asking you how much money do you have just to ask you because I want to know. It's because I want to make sure that I'm putting you in the right position. Yeah. And then also let you know that I used to deal with this, numbers, money. This is what I used to deal with. Right. So I have experience.
Well, that you're on the team. You're a team with that buyer.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a seller. You're a team, and you need to know everything. Yeah, because stuff will come up, and we know everybody's got dirty laundry. We know, everyone's got some sort of skeleton in their closet. Yeah, we all screwed up and done stupid things in our lives. Exactly. That's just, we're humans, right? Yeah. So that's happening when you actually sit down and get real with people in a polite way, obviously, but because you're working on their behalf. Yeah. You want to represent them to make them happy. And that's the reason why you're having these conversations.
Exactly. And that's kind of what I tell people. I tell them that I'm on your team. If the more honest you are with me, the easier it's going to be for me to help you to get you into that right home. And it's kind of like, say we're on a team, 2 people, and I'm playing cards, I'm playing blackjack. But if you don't tell me what we're playing with, then I'm basically playing blind. Yeah. So that's kind of the analogy I use. Yeah. With people.
Let's transition over a little bit because I don't know if there's I don't know what the proper word for it is. DJ Lindsey's come in the area in the storm. You guys talked about it a little bit in the podcast that I was watching with their in-house podcast team there. What's the gentleman's name? Todd. I periodically listen to what he's got there because I've been wanting to get DJ Lindsey on the show. So maybe you can, hopefully you can give me some good words. And Travis. I know Travis when he started Christina Welch's team. Very new. He's come such a long way. I'm proud of. He finally did friend me on Facebook, and I have asked him to come on the show, and he didn't respond. So hopefully, me talking.
He's busy.
But one thing I've learned, and I tell people I need to write a book because all the stories, everyone's story is a little different and where they came from and how they, what they're doing. There are a lot of common themes in the top producers though. But what I've learned also is how many different ways this business is done. And DJ and Lindsey have taken a very, I'll say a bold approach in it. And for you as being part of that machine, if I can use that analogy that they've created, you've taken someone with just 3 years experience. You have over 100 transactions now. By the end of this year, I think your goal said was 100. I don't know if you're, you reach it, but you'll be very close to it. Assuming you do at least what you did last year. in just 3 years. And the at bats and how important it is to how you've advanced your career and your experience to compare to other people who might have been in the business 10 years and don't have that many transactions under their belt. And the way that's just the way they've chosen to do business. A lot of people want to defend the real estate agent, but it's your choice to work there.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think it's a great place to work if it's a fit for you. If you're like me and you like to grind and you like to put the hours in and you like to be successful, I think it's a very good fit.
Right.
Yeah, but like I said earlier, it's not for everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, if I were to start a team, I would definitely want some type of structure to make sure that people are ramping up as fast as possible, because if you have employees, you want to make sure that they're efficient and they're doing good.
Right.
And that's just how I would model my team as well. Other teams may not want that. They might just...
And correct me if I'm wrong here. From what I see on the outside, there's a lot of, in whether you're a mortgage loan officer or a real estate agent, there's a lot of companies out there that want to sign you up and put you on their thing, but they're not willing to invest up front to, well, let's see if you do some deals and I'll help you with that. Where it seems like DJ and Lindsey are putting, I'm sure they're not bringing anyone on. They're doing very good interviews and breaking you down, make sure they're bringing on the right person that's going to fit. It's not 100%, but hopefully they get better and better at it, each person they bring on. But they're investing in you quite a bit, whether from the leads, the training, all the things that they have to put you in the best possible position when they bring you on. So they're putting a lot of their resources up front for you.
Yeah, I would say they probably have the best mentorship program in town or in Florida. And it's kind of, you get what you put into it.
Excuse me. The water went down the wrong way.
Yeah, so they choose to invest a lot into their agents. And yeah, it's just, if you invest in your agents, they start ramping up faster, then you're going to...
What would you say? I mean, not exact figures, but I mean, I see a lot of young people like yourself there. I do know there's also successful agents I've seen that I know from other brokerages, because I met them years ago there, that have also come in that are a little older, have families or whatever. They've worked at another brokerage for a couple of years and come over. But the percentage of like very new, which you were very, you were only 3 months in the business, 3 or 4 months in the business. So you were, fairly green, still coming in. So how many of the I always go back to my, when I got out of college, I sold cars, and they obviously at 22 years old, the old dude in there was calling me Green Pea. Right? Green. So what percentage do you think are at DJ and Lindsey that come in totally green, don't know anything about real estate, and then these other kind of experienced agents that actually fit the program that they've got going on and want to be involved in that, or how they're running, be involved in how they're running their business?
That's a hard question. I don't think I could really put a number on that. I'll probably say that more are green than experienced.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think because I was obviously watching the podcast. I want to phrase this the right way. I don't want to say something. I think what they're doing is a business model, and they're running it, and they're running it very well. And obviously from the numbers, and obviously your success. I mean, you look at it. Imagine if you stayed at that other brokerage, you probably would have got out of the business.
Probably.
Yep.
Yeah. But I feel like every brokerage is a business model. I feel like they've just found out a really good way to run it.
Yeah. I mean, it's again, not for everybody, but again, are you still running? What's like, say what someone coming in green today joining DJ and Lindsey, what are some of the expectations that they should have? Like, hey, you better be there at 9 o'clock, and you're, for the first 90 days. What are some basics of things that or expectations that they set?
I would say some of the expectations, I don't know exactly what the times are now because I'm more experienced.
Right.
I don't have to go to training and stuff like that. But as a new person, I would say they probably need you to be there from, I'd say, 9 to 11 or 9 to 12 for prospecting, and then whatever trainings they have throughout the day as well.
How important are those trainings to how important have they been for your career?
I think they
not necessarily their trainings, but education in general in the business. I think kind of tipped on a little earlier.
I think education in the business is very important because that's what's going to help you ramp up. That's what's going to set you apart from the other agent, because let's be honest, every agent can do the same thing. Every mortgage broker can do the same thing. They can close deals. Every
Right.
title company can get the deal to the closing table.
Right.
So I think that education is very, very important because that's what's going to set you apart from the agent next to you.
Right. How we talk, a good percentage of the people coming in are green, and obviously they don't know anything. They probably, like I said, most of them don't even own their own house.
Mm-hmm.
How important is the education and just simply their confidence when they're talking, or actually do get someone on the phone?
So I think knowledge and education is going to, you can hear it in people's confidence levels.
Mm-hmm.
If people know what they're talking about, they come off as more confident. If they're kind of iffy, then you can literally hear it in people's
Right.
voice. So
Right.
I think that is a good way to bridge the gap from green to experience, is that knowledge right there. Because there's a new person on the team right now who has not been doing real estate very long, but he has educated himself, and if you were to hear him on the phone,
Sounds like he's
been
done
doing it
50
for years.
transactions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what people want to hear. That gives people the reassurance that even though this person is green, he knows what he's talking about.
Right. Because as we talked about getting your LinkedIn account going, people do Google you.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can go on the state website and see how long you've had your license. I mean, it's not that difficult. It's all public record. It's out there.
Yeah.
From that standpoint. So what are, and we'll just kind of, and we already talked about your first 3 months with that previous brokerage, but just as a real estate agent in general, you show up at DJ Lindsey. What are some things that some personal struggles or challenges that you had? Maybe it's getting out of your comfort zone or something. But what are some things that you really had to work on yourself to improve on? Because I'm sure it just wasn't all sunshine and roses.
Yeah. I think just getting to know people, understanding that everyone is different, because I am a very fact and transactional based type person. I'll tell you, hey,
Your bottom line guy.
This is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
what it is. Yeah. The numbers work, so let's do it. But there's a lot more that goes into that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more emotions that go into that. Especially, you kind of touched on this earlier, like for sellers, for example, like this can be where they lived for 30 years.
Yeah.
This can be where they raised their family. So to them, it's not just a numbers game. To them, it's like, this is a new chapter in my life.
Yes.
I'm leaving this old one and I'm starting a new one. So there's a lot of emotions that go into it, which I wasn't really aware of before I got into real estate. So that's something that has been a learning curve for me because,
Right.
like I said earlier, everyone is different. You'll have some people that are just like, numbers make sense, do it. And then others that are like, this is where I grew up.
Right.
Like, I don't know if I can do this. So it's...
Or the buyer that goes in the house and is like, oh, I don't like it because the walls are painted blue. Like, okay, well, we can paint the walls. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Something that's very minuscule to someone might be huge to someone else. They might not have an extra $3,000 to pay, like to paint the house and stuff like that. So it's just really like getting to know your buyer or seller on the personal and emotional level.
So did you find yourself you had to slow down a little bit to be that little more personable?
Yes.
So that's something you had to teach yourself, because I'm the same way.
Yes.
Empathy is not my strength. And so I have to slow myself down.
Yeah.
Instead of like, oh yeah, makes sense. Let's go. That they do. They're going to go through with it. It's just they just need a few more minutes.
100%. 100%. I think patience. That's one thing that I've gotten a lot better at because everyone is going at different paces.
Mm-hmm.
Transactional people are start to finish pretty fast.
Yeah.
Other people need a little bit more nurturing, a little bit more empathy, understanding. So yeah.
What would you say would be when you showed up at DJ and Lindsey in, like, I don't know if it took you a few minutes or it took you 6 months, but you're like, I'm home. This is like, I can excel in this space.
I would say after I closed my first deal, that's when I was like, all right, I am where I need to be.
Right.
I'm excited. There's so much to learn. Like I told you earlier, I like to learn. I like to know. One thing that keeps me captivated with real estate is there's so much to learn. Everything's different. Like
now,
every deal is different.
Being new too, and you were doing so many, 30 transactions your first year, 69 last year. So obviously last year you had times where you were handling probably 3 or 4 different buying, selling situations.
At 22. At one point in time, I had 22.
22 actually, yeah, we're actively looking, and you're spending time with trying to through the week and so forth.
Yeah.
What did you have to do? How much did you rely on DJ and Lindsey and their team and their your support team to get through that? How important was that?
So it's very important to have a very good transaction coordinator, because there's no way that I would be able to handle 22 files on my own.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, it's also very important to make sure that you are still the lead on the deal and that you know what's going on. So the way I explain it to my customers is that, yes, I have a transaction coordinator who's going to handle all the admin and stuff like that,
Right.
but I'm always in the background overseeing everything, making sure that everything is on track and that you are comfortable with what's going on.
So you had 22 transactions, and so, I don't know, maybe you have a certain time of the day or a certain day of the week that you're going to reach out and update. But I mean, how do you juggle 22 balls at the same time?
My CRM. I have certain days.
Take good notes.
Yeah, I have certain days that I check in with my listings, and then with my buyers, I'm pretty active with them. I'm always checking in with them, making sure that everything's on track.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of just happens on its own.
So with some of that, I mean, just some of them were probably making a phone call depending on the update. Some of them just a text message or an email.
It depends.
How do you?
It depends on what their communication style is. Some people like emails. Some people like talking on the phone. Some people like texting.
Mm-hmm.
So I really adapt to what that person likes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to text you if you don't like the text. I'm going to call you.
Yeah.
So it's really.
I've done entire refinances and stuff literally through text message.
Yeah. Some people are like, don't call me, just text me. Like,
yeah.
And all it takes is 2 minutes to call, check in. Hey, just calling to check in. Everything's on track. Do you need anything?
Mm-hmm.
No? Okay, great. I'll be in touch soon.
Because, I mean, to be able to successfully, 22 transactions at the same time, and this goes back to anyone in the business, you've got to branch out. And whether, obviously DJ and Lindsey, I'm sure they have a team of transaction coordinators that Travis is running. If you're an individual agent, how important is, like, when you start doing that kind of stuff, you've got to have some assistance. And that's one of the biggest challenges that I see with agents that are kind of out there, I wouldn't say on their own, but is like they come to a point where they've reached a lid, and for them to do any more, which they can physically do more, they've got to actually hire somebody.
Yeah.
To handle that admin stuff and take that load off. Because there's like you said, all that stuff that you don't see a real estate agent doing. Yeah. That person needs to be doing, because there's a huge back end of, following up with past clients. You got to do that because you just got to keep your business moving forward. Yep. Otherwise you're up, down, up every other month because you're of the lack of doing one part of the business. Yeah. Prospecting or whatever.
Following up with past clients, prospecting new clients. You have to constantly be doing that because, like you said, you don't want to 1 month not close a deal, the next month have 10 deals closing. So you want to find that perfect balance where you're basically peer level going through.
Right. As reasonably marketed. Who's been the most influential person in your career?
Most influential?
And we talked about appreciate. It doesn't have to be real estate career because obviously you've been a high level athlete. So, is there coach or, dad? I don't know what.
That's a good question. Most influential, I have to give Brittany Nolan, who was my mentor, lots of props. She was hands down the best mentor. She helped me out.
She's a young person too, right?
Yeah.
She's what, is she 30?
I think she's younger than me.
Oh, is that okay?
Yeah. But she was a really good mentor, hands-on training. I would probably say she's been the biggest influence on my real estate career thus far.
So you mentioned that right off the bat was having a mentor. So that's probably a DJ and Lindsey. The first day you walk in, they're going to assign you to somebody that they think you're going to match with and work with, and how important it is. Because every top person I've had on here has had somebody, whether it's that person who brought them into the business or another older real estate agent in the office they can pick their brain on, and so forth, and how important that is in getting your career going.
Yeah.
We talked about education. Well, the mentor and surrounding yourself by successful people. I think, your office has a lot of successful people. You're all moving and grooving in there. It seems, at least the numbers that go. I imagine there are some people that are probably having some problems, but there's a lot of buzz going on. So and DJ and Lindsey are very involved, like you said, with Tom Ferry and so forth. And I imagine that's spilling over. So the successful people is where they're, but the one common theme, and I don't think we talked about it completely, or maybe mentioned it briefly, is consistency. What do you feel that you've been doing consistency? Maybe not from the start, maybe something I picked it up 6 months ago and I started doing it, and it's now just moved my business even a little bit more. But what do you do consistency, daily, weekly, monthly, that you think is just, you would tell any agent this is what they got to do?
Everything. Everyone always asks, well, what is it that makes you successful? And I think it's doing everything. It's not, you can be, if you're really good at one part but not the others, I don't think you're going to have as much success. But if you can do everything consistently, the waking up in the mornings, going to the gym, prospecting 9 to 11, going out on showings 12 to 6, following back up with people after that.
You block your time.
Yes.
You're very regimented. This is what I'm doing until, whatever, 4:00 in the afternoon or whatever. This is you're doing. So it starts with your, obviously the alarm going off, and the first thing you're going is go work out. Cause that's what I had, Shelby Florence from Compass, and she said if she doesn't get that workout in the morning, her whole day is screwed up.
Yeah.
So that's her thing that she has to do. Consistency is get up and go work out.
Yeah. I think time blocking is very important because at least me, I can get very distracted if I'm not focused at one task at a hand. So a way to get me focused is looking at my calendar. All right, from 12 to 3, this is when I'm going to do showings. I do that. Or from 9 to 11, this is when I'm just going to do follow-ups. That way it keeps me from doing other things, looking up properties or something like that, So
yeah, because you can easily get all the different things.
Yeah, start browsing.
Distracted. Yeah.
So it helps you stay
100%. 100%. Yeah. All right, we're gonna wrap up because we're right here at an hour, probably a little bit over here. What's your favorite thing to do in Northeast Florida?
My favorite thing to do in Northeast Florida?
I asked this question because we sell lifestyle here. Would you agree? You sell.
Yeah.
It's Florida lifestyle. People come here because.
Yeah. I would say the fact that we can go to the beach in February, that we basically have the beach year round. We get 1 week of cold weather, which is in January usually.
Yeah.
But other than that,
a couple days it reaches freezing. Yeah, we might have to cover the plants.
Yeah,
for a couple
exactly.
Days. Yeah.
I would say that's like one of my favorite things to do is that we can always wear shorts and go to the beach here.
I've stated before. Cole Slate said people are starting to find out about our little gem here in Northeast Florida, because we do have the river. We do, you can go hike, all the different beaches all the way up to the Georgia line.
Yeah.
And, down the Palm Coast, all the different things, whether you want to go to Old Town, whether you want to go to a Jaguars game or whatever. There's just so many things to do here.
Yep.
And those who want to head west and find some cheaper, larger lots, well, keep heading west.
Exactly.
You might find that towards Our Lake City, right?
Yeah. There's something for everyone here.
Is it more important who you know or what you know?
I'm a big fan of who you know, just because, touching on what we spoke about earlier, like hanging around successful people, mentors and stuff like that, that's typically how people get plugged into various roles and stuff. So I'm a very big fan of who you know, but I think it's also important to.
You got to follow it up with competence. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to follow. The who you know, because it was as you were saying, I was thinking, the who can oftentimes tell you what you need to know, and then you can go do that, right?
Yeah.
You show up and Brittany's your mentor, and I'm sure there's a couple things she told you to do that you weren't even thinking about doing, but she's like, no, you need to go take this class or whatever it is.
Yeah. So I would say who you know will get you through the door. What you know will help you stay there.
Yeah. And be successful. Well, Theo, I appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I hope my Facebook Live worked. If it didn't, hopefully it's recording the video and we'll get it out that way.
Yeah, definitely.
But I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.